Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, the good people of this planet will not have the chance too soon to get rid of this beautiful, beautiful open society organization that transfers slowly the power from the old geezer into the younger, more vigorous weasel. So geezer and weasel. I'm talking about the Soros and their Open Society Foundation. So what happened now? They, with their money and their influence and NGOs, will make sure that a MAGA-style Republican will not or will be prevented from winning the 2024 elections or probably ever. So I like when people come straight and tell you, this is what I'm going to do, and you meet you in the battlefield. I like that. Very uncommon for weasel like this too, right here. So I have an article from Sputnik, and let me show you what I'm talking about. So these are the weasels right there. So Sputnik, which are bad people, right? Soros Foundation vows to stop, and I'm quoting, MAGA-style Republicans, end quote, from winning 2024 election. Okay, well, you're just going to be using your beautiful society to help us see the light. That means we're dead. Seeing the light is when you're already dead and supposedly you travel to see the good one or the real one. The Soros family has waged a years-long political war against Donald Trump. That's the one. And his supporters, with George Soros calling Trump and I'm quoting, danger to the world. Parentheses, my parentheses, to my world. And characterizing his idea as, and I'm quoting, threat to democracy. Because what Soros does is beautiful. Trump has alleged that, and I'm quoting, district attorneys handpicked and personally founded by Soros are behind the ongoing effort to put him behind bars. That's what Trump claimed. Is there any evidence? Last month, George Soros' Open Society Foundation soft power empire announced a dramatic scaling back of funding from operations in Europe. It seems like they are done with that. They're good with that. It's good. Sparking outcry from liberal activists, NGOs, and think tanks regarding the impact the end of the financial gravy train will have on their operation. Well, if a mission accomplished, what do you want me to do now? Fight another one, because that's what Superman always did. Put his cape around and and he saved right this, and then flew after he solved that European situation. He flew to all the other ones, the other situation. So he's back to us, to the Americans, because I'm American. I'm American, okay? I'm not American. So from Europe, that means the process is finished or he lost. It's not a battle. It's either he sees like, we're done. But he's going to bring the argument. He says, actually, and this is how you identify actually who's in charge by this. Actually, everything that happens in Europe comes from someone else. That's United States. So if United States gives an order, everything over there changes. So then what are we going to do? Let's go to the source, solve the problem here, make sure we got the right person in the US, and then that will trickle down to Europe with the servants in Europe. So Alexander Soros, the 37-year-old son of, brace yourself, you're going to have truth by omission. Hungarian-born US billionaire. They forgot two things. Right here, two things. And this is the Sputnik, and I'm surprised. One, they didn't mention that he is a Jewish Hungarian-born US billionaire philanthropist. So they missed Jewish and philanthropist, which is okay. I just want to be inclusive. I like inclusivity. I like diversity. And I know that diversity, according to these guys, is our strength. So by adding those two little truths, there's no lies, that means, we just are stronger. Anyway, so he took the reins of the OS, Open Society Foundation, in June. So let's go and see here that he will shift his focus under his leadership, assuring the OFC isn't really leaving Europe. I'm going to keep an eye on the investment, and that the region remains of huge strategic importance. So these guys talk about the global thing, not about the little towns of town of Bethlehem or the dog catcher of a little village. No, no, no. Strategic. And when I talk about strategic, I talk about Europe, I talk about Asia, I talk about Africa, I talk about North America or South America. That means the planetary. Shift to focus to Eastern Europe and US. Now here this guy says, the Hungarian born, and I'm quoting, the future of accountable democratic governments in Europe is now being determined not just in Paris and Berlin, but also in Warsaw, Kiev, and Prague. Well, not really, because if these guys in Paris and Berlin plug something out, which they can't because they are under the whose mastership, those guys right here, that's how Warsaw and Kiev is allowed to have a say. If these guys want to kick them out, they can kick them out and still keep them under their control. He wrote, and I'm quoting, this isn't about funding levels. It's about priorities as the focus of funding shifts back to the continent east. Yeah, okay, Soros Jr. noted, recalling that after all, his father's soft power, meddling in nation's political affairs began in Eastern Europe in 1980s. I tell you a story, a short one. When the Romanian Revolution occurred in 1989, in December. After that, democracy and freedom came and so on. I heard the name mentioned Soros. I didn't know who the hell was that. I was very young, so at that time, and I didn't know who the Soros. Hey, that's money, Soros money. Soros paid for these protesters. Soros did that. Who's Soros? Just so you know, that it was in 1989 and 1990, 1991, 1992. I kept hearing the protests being funded in the street with Soros money. That's what they said. I have no evidence to support that, but I'm just sharing with you the first time when I heard the name Soros. So I was a very young, first minor and then young adult. All right, so spending in Ukraine won't be affected by the cuts, Soros assured, recalling with pride, quote unquote, that $250 million in cash funneled into the country since 2014 Euromaidan coup, and which played, and I'm quoting, such an important role in Kiev's resilience amid the ongoing NATO-backed proxy war against Russia. So these guys, obviously, NGOs, I think Soros NGOs are out of Russia and Hungary, they kicked them out, or something like that, which is unacceptable to kick out a philanthropist, right? Now, and I'm quoting again, as someone who spends, all right, this is Trump's, they were talking about Trump right now. As someone who spends up to half their time working on the continent and thinks former United States President Donald Trump, or at least someone with his isolationist, I got it, third time, isolationist, and anti-European policies will be the Republican nominee, I believe a MAGA-style Republican victory in next year's US presidential election could, in the end, be worse for the European Union than for the US. Such an outcome will imperil European unity, like they're all one, and undermine the progress achieved on many fronts in response to the war in Ukraine, Soros said. You have to understand, when he talks about progress, he's not talking about the people's progress. He talks about his progress, his open society bullshit progress, their interest being promoted. They're talking about this when it's about success, and not about your success as a European Union servant, as I am an American servant. Okay, don't, unless you're not, and I apologize. That means you're somewhere very high up in a government, like president or prime minister or something like this. And then you are, come to the club, join us from 6 to 9 on PM Wednesdays. All right, so Trump versus Soros. So I'm going to go down here, then it's all kind of statements, and I'm going to read this one. And I'm quoting Trump. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who was handpicked and funded by George Soros, is a disgrace. This is what Trump said, and I'm quoting again. Rather than stopping the unprecedented crime wave overtaking New York City, he's doing Joe Biden's dirty work, end quote. Trump said in a march following his first indictment. Now let's see what these guys say. I expect, and I'm quoting, I expect that Trump will be found guilty, at least in some cases, and will be in jail by election day in November 2022. Though that is not the general expectation today, end quote, George Soros said in an interview last month. And I'm quoting, if I am right, he is unlikely to win the election. But if I'm wrong, the US will face a constitutional crisis that is likely to bring on an economic crisis as well. End quote. Will he have a hand in that, you think? So that is, if you don't do what I say, if you don't do what I say, then you're going to have probably a little problem. So we'll find out about that one, depending on what's going on in the with the elections. But I'm not going to talk about the elections because my expectations, as I thought democracy works, are very low at this point, and that showed me in the last elections. I mean, procedures, whatever you want to call it, event. And I said, well, thank you very much. Here is your paperwork. I don't want it. She's too fat for me. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.